What about, your with going towards the city? Do you sort of believe staying within that a certain radius from the CBD, or do you sort of like the outer suburbs as well?
It depends. So there are cities now have multiple activity centres and multiple CBDs. So in Brisbane itself, Brisbane actually has two CBDs: the Brisbane CBD and then Springfield is another CBD. Springfield is almost half the size of Canberra in terms of its size. So there are two. These are the two hubs that you can buy things around where there's a concentration of investments. So you don't particularly need to be around, as long as where you are it's in the middle of a massive employment hub. So the southwest of Brisbane, for example, there are pockets where it's surrounded by employment, and that in itself is a strong area in terms of infrastructure, your investments, population growth. And the other thing is, if you look at cities like Melbourne and Sydney, Melbourne is very decentralised. So actually don't recommend buying around the CBD because CBD is full of high density apartments, and those are areas that's not really going to see much growth for a long time. But if you
Yeah.
buy in suburbs that has got they have what's called a metropolitan activity centre. So if you buy around those activity centres, that's strong employment, very easy commute to work, and with a lot of good amenities like cafes and restaurants and that sort of stuff. That's actually a very good option. And that could be they could be further out from the city, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
same as for Sydney. There are actually multiple employment hubs in Sydney as well, so multiple CBDs. There's going to be three with the Badgerys Creek coming on. That will be a huge CBD as well. And so the areas around the third CBD in Sydney actually makes for good investment long term as well.
And then for anyone wanting to sort of go interstate, but, with no one being able to travel and you've only got the reliability of pictures, they don't always turn out to be what the pictures are. How do people are so scared to go interstate and they don't want to do that because they can't physically see it. What are people's best options to start, moving interstate to purchase investment properties?
Well, there are a lot of ways you can do this. I actually have properties all around the country. I've got properties in Victoria, in New South Wales, in Queensland, in WA, so all around the country. And I do understand people's fear and mentality about not investing in interstate just because they feel that they can't go and visit it and they don't understand the property market there. But you can do actually a lot of research by just talking to people who live locally, local agents, for example. You can also, if you get the chance to visit the area, you don't actually need to know the specific properties, but as long as you get a feel for the area, then that's usually it's not really necessary. We've got plenty of members that have bought interstate without ever being up there seeing the area as well. But the fundamentals, those are the numbers that you can actually see through research, which is at Freedom, that's what we do. We actually look at this. We have this 13-point selection criteria that's being built from basically the predictions, I call it the 4 pillars of prediction, which is a methodology that I built up over the years. And it is a very scientific and logical process of filtering down to the suburb level, even street level, what are the good properties to invest in. So if you tick all those boxes, then you get a really good idea of what the suburb is like anyway. You can learn a lot about that from the numbers. The numbers actually tell you a really story about this area. So you don't really necessarily have to visit the area to actually to actually understand all of that. Of course, it's good if you can visit the area, but you certainly don't need to visit a particular property before to purchase that property.